Well, that's going live. How you been, Kay?
It's fine. Looks like we've got Mr. Mauger.
Yep. And Jim indicated he won't be here tonight, and then we have a vacancy, so this is it.
Okay.
So, which is fine. So,
And the reason why it's not here, I think, is important, Kay. He's, you know, those of us that have grandchildren that are in sports, you have to sit back and tap your fingers until tickets appear. And so when he sent me an email, he said, 5 minutes ago, I got my tickets. So he's off to watch the granddaughter.
Okay. I was going to say,
good deal.
I just saw him the other day running the hose at his car wash. So I thought, well, I think he's in good health.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
You just don't get to go to sporting events very much. We got our tickets like, I think 3 hours before the last football game. It's just, they're very tight with him right now. And that's high school.
Wow.
All right,
All
I'm
right,
done.
so we'll go ahead. Oh, thank you. It's 7:02. We'll go ahead and call this planning and zoning meeting to order. I know the agenda says 6:30, but it's 7 o'clock for the meeting. So on the call here, I'll just do the quick roll call. I'm here. Mr. Mauger is here. Ms. Williamson is here. Mr. Hochradel is absent and excused. And our council position is vacant due to the council resignation from Mr. Moeller. Also in attendance is Village Administrator Terry Weiss. And the first thing we have on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the March 12th meeting. We'll look at those and approve those. Those are also going to go to BZA to be approved because it was a joint meeting and public hearing. So BZA will also have an opportunity to approve those as well. But as of for right now, did both of you get a chance to look over those minutes?
I just read them and I did not see any additions or corrections that needed to be made. So I'm ready to approve them.
Sounds like a motion to approve. Mr.
I would
Mauger,
second
I got a second. Second, all right. Since I'm the only one else on here for discussion, there'll be no discussion because I read them and had no problems with them. So we will just approve them as written. Visitors, there's no visitors on here. I didn't get any emails about this meeting. We'll keep the meeting kind of short. What Terry and I were talking about wanting to do was talk about how we proceed in this COVID area, since our meeting space isn't exactly conducive to meeting in person. And we had, in particular, it's listed under our old business, the short-term rentals, Airbnb, bed and breakfast discussions where we were going through that systematic approach. We just wanted to have a meeting to discuss how to proceed forward with those discussions, make sure everybody's comfortable doing them online like this until we can meet in person again. Do we need to have one meeting or invite owners of Airbnbs back, or does everybody have their collective notes and we could proceed forward with the next session? We just wanted to come up and formulate a game plan, since it's hard to tell when we'll be back in person given our space limitations in the village. So Kay, Ken, what are your thoughts on how to proceed with P&Z business, and in particular that systematic approach to Airbnbs and short-term rentals we were looking at?
I don't see anything wrong with doing the Zoom discussion. If I remember correctly, I thought we'd gotten good input from our current owners that we were aware of. I thought we were right at the cusp of receiving all of Terry's research from others. And then all of a sudden we weren't allowed back in the building. And so we did not receive those, correctly? Am I correct?
That's correct. They're still on my desk.
Okay,
Correct.
all right. I was
I do
hoping that
have
I
them.
hadn't lost them somewhere on my desk.
No. I had emailed them to you, but they were so long and intense. You
Yes.
asked for copies, and so copies were made to pass out, and then we couldn't do it. So I do have all those copies ready for you, Kay.
So if the two of you are good with it, then maybe what we can do is Terry's got those copies. I'll have her email them out again to everybody and
No,
remind
they don't
everybody
want email. They want hard copies.
Well,
Yeah, I want a hard copy that I can write on it.
and also say, here's what it is, and then you can pick up your printed copy in the office. Just, you got to call ahead so that we know you're coming in to get them, and we'll have them available. And then in our November meeting, then we could proceed with the discussion of best practices from other municipalities and villages with regards to them.
The only thing we might want to check back with the owners is how has the COVID experience changed, if any, their business and its operation. So they
Good
could
question.
we could reach out to them by email, ask them if they could share how they see our current situation and how things are our new normal, how they feel it's going to affect them.
Right. Okay. I think we could do that and get some email input back and stuff like that, how it's changed. So, Ken, are you good with that plan?
I am fine with that. One of my questions was, I know when we left the last meeting, we were talking about possibly permitting or licensing both short-term and long-term rentals. And I wasn't sure if any research has been done on that or where that is.
Well, and that was what our next meeting was going to be about. Terry has done some benchmarking with other municipalities to see what they're doing, and the pros and cons of both, the pros and cons of permitting and the pros and cons of not permitting, so that we could have that information to continue that discussion of, is that something we want to do? That was the meeting that ended up getting canceled, and we haven't had yet because of all the COVID stuff. So Terry has that information for you guys to pick up, and what we'll do then is we'll resume in the November meeting, and with the agenda item being short-term rentals, Airbnb discussions, and our discussion on review and discussion of municipality, pros and cons, best practices with regards to them.
Okay. As far as the Zoom meetings, I mean, if this is the new normal and this is what we got to adjust to, I think we have to resume business.
I agree.
Exactly. And that's why Terry and I have had a lot of discussions about trying, because council wants to get back into in-person meetings too. Unfortunately, our space where we can meet doesn't quite meet CDC guidelines. And then we've had an employee with potential exposure this week, which has highlighted other, concerns. We want to make sure everyone stays safe. So as much as we'd like to get back in person, we're with you, Ken, and we got to resume, which is why we wanted to go ahead and have this meeting tonight to discuss our best way forward to resume the planning and zoning business.
Terry, would it help if, as we read through your documents, if we had points of discussion or questions or things that we thought we should be ready to discuss, if we forwarded you that information rather than bringing them up at the meeting?
I think that's kind of a good idea. And then we can put them in a format that everybody can review them.
Okay.
And I think that's a way to go. My only concern is this. One of the things that we had talked about, if you remember right, Mayor, is having the public join into the discussion. So how are we going to do that? Will we do that like we are doing for council, have them submit questions and listen to the YouTube, or how would we do that?
So because of the way planning commissions work, we have that kind of built in. I think we can have our discussion broadcasted on YouTube, but before we make any changes, we have to have a public hearing on that matter.
Okay.
And so what we would do is, after we have our discussions, decide what we want to do, because if we decide to do nothing, we don't need to have a public hearing. But if we decide to do something that changes the zoning code, then we would set up a public hearing, just like we did for the BZA stuff, and that information would be published so that the public could join via Zoom to provide their input.
That makes sense.
Okay. Good point, though, because we got to make sure we do that. So,
Yes.
All right. So moving forward, we'll have a meeting in November with our continued discussion for
Mhm.
bed and breakfast, Airbnb, short-term rentals, specifically looking at municipalities. I like Kay's idea, questions that come in early, because we can put them in a bullet point list to make sure,
Yes.
not only make sure we address, but make sure everybody has them. Because sometimes one question from one person spawns another question. I also like it, now that I'm thinking about it out loud, because if we get the questions early and it's information we don't have, that might give us a little bit of time to
do some research. Mhm.
Okay.
to do some research, and that way we're not delaying it for another meeting, some of that information. So I do
Right.
like that. I do like that idea. So
Perfect.
that's how we'll proceed forward. That'll also take care of the old business on our agenda tonight, since it'll be set for the meeting in November. There are two new business items. I mentioned it at the beginning. Number one is resignation of Dwayne Moeller. Don't know if Ken and Kay, you guys knew or saw, but his home went up for sale. There was a buyer for it very quickly, and they are in the process, if they haven't already, moved out of the village. And because to be a council member, you have to live in the village, Dwayne had to resign. So it's unfortunate because he leaves a big footprint for us to have to fill on council, and his input here was always good. But what's good for his family is we got to support 100%. So I'm happy for him in that regard. We are currently accepting applications for appointments to Dwayne's seat. His seat expires at the end of next year, so whoever gets appointed will have to run for election in November of 2021. I'm going to hold off on appointing a council member to planning and zoning until we get that new council member appointed, just because if whoever comes in might have experience or some knowledge or specialized expertise in something that could be very beneficial on planning and zoning, I want to make sure we have that. And so I don't want to make that appointment until I know who's going to fill that seat. We are accepting applications on it, at least right now, through Monday. And we do have several people interested. So council has to make an appointment by, I want to say it's October 28th would be their last day to make an appointment. It might be a little before that. So by our November meeting, we should have a new council member appointee. I just don't know who that will be yet. So, and then the last new business item is ducks added to urban chickens. And I'll let Terry explain that a little bit.
I've gotten a couple of phone calls from some residents who would like to have some ducks. I'm a chicken duck lover, so I understand
Well,
what.
And I was gonna say, in full disclosure, had COVID not hit this year, my daughter and I were planning on wanting to get a few ducks, and she's potentially going to show ducks as part of her 4-H project.
4-H project,
So
right?
I am one of those residents that would like to have a few ducks.
And when we talked about the permit that we put together for the chickens, we limited the size of the flock and the number of roosters. I believe that the ducks, we should also have a limitation if we're going to allow ducks the same. So that's my first part of this. My second part of this is, as I did some research on other chicken permits, I think one of the things that we have missing from our verbiage is about the cleanliness and the odor of the pens. So I would like to, if you're open to entertaining something like that, I'm not asking for a vote tonight. I could go ahead and send out some information on what other villages are doing and about what they're saying in their stipulations as far as keeping it clean and how to dispose of the manure and stuff. I think that's important because I did have a call in the village at one time when somebody had some ducks. I explained to them they weren't permitted, and they were very not taken care of very well. So I guess I like to have that black and white meat and potatoes when I do code enforcement. So if you would entertain something like that, I'll put something together for our November meeting for your review.
My concern with ducks is, do they need water?
No, surprisingly, they don't. Because that was one of my concerns is what do you do for water? They don't need water to swim in like you would think. They do recommend giving them a small area to be able to jump in and swim in. My plan had my daughter done ducks for 4-H this year was to get a 35-gallon feed trough. So just one of the narrow feed troughs, and you put it in the ground, and that's all they need. A lot of the home duck sites and research I did indicate that a lot of times a small baby pool is more
That's
than
what we
sufficient
have.
for up to 6 ducks. A
Okay.
larger baby pool with more ducks, but a small pool is really all they recommend. Just something so they can hop in and get a little wet, but they do not require it.
And they're easier to clean. We even went down to the dollar store and got a very small baby pool that was the heavy plastic, and then we just dump it out, clean it out, and then put fresh water in it. And they do jump in and out. They don't stay in it very long, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
One
was
of my
surprised.
concerns would be, I have nothing against ducks, but then do we start including geese and
Yeah,
your
that's
other
gonna get real
waterfowl?
dirty.
How far does this go?
Well, and that goes on to, well, what about turkeys?
Yeah.
Right,
turkeys
well.
would be next.
Yes. And maybe Terry can look at that for the research. What do other
I can.
what do other municipalities that would permit ducks allow? Do they only allow the smaller breeds, or do they allow some of the larger geese as well? So
Yeah, because you can have a goose for a 4-H project, you can have a turkey for a 4-H project.
Right.
right,
Mm.
and that's one of the things. Being a rural community, I think we want to be careful of. We want to encourage the kids, especially the ones that live in the village that don't have the farms, but want to have that experience and that education. We want to encourage that. At the same time, we don't want our next door neighbor having a small turkey farm.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I think limiting numbers is the way to go. And I know we have people that were raising turkeys. They were pets, I was told, and they did get rid of them. But yeah, I think we just need to have something in place so when we do code enforcement, we can enforce.
So Terry, if you could add on the research for the duck portion, do they limit them to just the smaller duck breeds? Do they allow the geese as part of them?
Okay, I can do that.
It's gonna get pretty foul.
Ooh, case
Yeah.
study. Good job.
That is where Hallie would tell me, Dad, did you really go to college for dad jokes like that?
No, it's just an old teacher homophone joke.
There you go.
There you go.
So
So-
Terry, if you need any possession information for 4-H, let me know and I can.
Okay,
get-
I will, because you were very helpful with the chickens, so I appreciate that. All right, I will do. Another thing that isn't on the agenda, and I know we want to keep this short, but we also need to sometime this winter, maybe start reviewing our definitions. I've struggled on a couple of cases over the lack of definitions are the wrong definitions. So I think I'm starting to put together a list of the definitions that are in our zoning, are not in our zoning, that has impacted rulings that I've had to make. So so coming soon.
And just so you guys know a little bit of the specifics, because we've talked about it at council a couple of times. One of the definitions is dealing with Baltimore Bulk Sales, which is a business over on, it's technically on Railroad Street. Yeah. And one of the homeowners that lives adjacent to it has raised some objections to the business. And we have a disagreement about how that business is classified. And
Defined.
that, yeah. And so that's still working through, but that is one of the ones that, you know, we've discussed at council. It's come up a couple of times, and so I can bring it up here. And just so you guys know, that's one of the ones in particular that has prompted some of the look at some of the definitions and how we define things. So I think we could probably, that might be something good to start in January once we get
That's
through.
what I'm thinking. Let's get through.
Once we get through
Mhm.
short-term rentals.
Yes, yes. I don't
Okay.
think it's anything critical right now, but I just coming soon.
Okay. Semantics.
Semantics, yes.
As Terry is quickly learning, she now knows why zoning attorneys charge hundreds of dollars an hour.
Yes.
Ma-
Many hours.
Maybe I should switch my specialty.
There you go.
So, all right. Do either of the two of you have anything else for new business or to discuss or want to bring up?
I have nothing else.
I can't think of anything.
Okay. Well,
I
in
will
that
give
case,
you, I'll give you each a call on Monday, and if you tell me how to get the documents to you, I can either drop them off or you can come pick them up.
Okay. Can we just call Missy and she can slide them
Yes.
out the door?
Yes,
So we could just do that?
yes.
Okay, but
Yep.
not tomorrow?
Tomorrow I'm working from home, but
Okay.
I could have her go in my office and get them if you like to pick them
Okay,
up
'cause
tomorrow. If you
should
want that,
be-
Kay.
Henry
will
and
call
I
her.
take a walk. We look for big trucks in Baltimore. We can
Oh,
give you
okay.
all the status on all the road work that's been done. We
We
have
have.
pictures to document. Oh, yes.
Right.
So that going around the corner by Missy is a major intersection for sighting big trucks. So
Yes.
I can,
yes.
if you don't mind, I'll
Yeah,
wait
I'll
until.
call her first thing in the morning and have
Okay.
her go in and get them. That'll
Okay,
be fine.
and then I can just call her and say, Henry and I are on our way,
Yeah.
and I can stow them in the stroller and we can keep on walking. So
That'll be
okay.
fine.
I appreciate that, and I'll keep my
Absolutely.
Post-it notes and notations and then collect those and send them to you for points of discussion.
That would be great. That would be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right then. Well, I appreciate you guys joining tonight so we can figure out how to keep
Go forward.
business moving forward in this era. So our next meeting is November 12th at 7 o'clock. And if no one else has anything, we'll adjourn the meeting. And I hope everyone has a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
See you. Bye-bye.